Welcome to How We Heard It, the podcast about music, pop culture, movies, and more, with your hosts Wayne Bledsoe and Chuck Campbell.
Welcome to How We Heard It. My name's Wayne Bledsoe, and this is
Chuck Campbell.
And today, as we were getting started, Chuck was expressing his frustration because I chose this topic of best debut albums of all time.
Yes.
And Chuck is not as comfortable as, and this is part of it, is while Chuck knows tons and tons and tons about music, he's not a nerd.
I'm not a nerd.
And I'm a total music nerd.
I didn't know there would be shame in not being a nerd, but I think right now, yes.
Well, I don't see it as shame, but it's interesting because that's one of the reasons we've had such spirited conversations through the years is, I come from a very nerdy background as far as music goes, and you don't.
Right. And it's always amazes me, in the past before this podcast and you're in the podcast, how you're just pulling stuff out of the air. And it's like, wow, I don't know how you can have this institutional knowledge that you can just look up when this came out and who produced it and what the name of that was and all that. And as I was explaining early on, I used to just review albums all the time, 3 a week for
and you reviewed more than me.
Years. Right. And it was just like I would devote myself to that review for a day, and I would learn everything about that band or singer and try to study their lyrics and know their history and give it my all. And then the next day I moved on to another band or another singer. And just I had to keep letting it go. I couldn't pack, 5,600 albums into my brain. So I just had to, it's like they're in and out. It's like a turnstile or something of them coming through. So that does make it hard for something like name the best debut albums. That's almost like saying name the best albums, and it's just like
and we were talking about this before. I mean, one of the things is a lot of times you think it's a debut album, and it turns out not to have been a debut album.
Right. There's a big difference between a breakthrough album and a debut album.
Right, and a lot of those that people thought, like I just said, Aretha Franklin's Never Loved a Man the Way That I Love You album. People think that's her first album. She had a whole catalog on Columbia Records before she went to Atlantic, but that's the one that everybody heard and everybody knew.
Right.
And Nirvana's Nevermind. There's an album before that.
There was an album before that. There was I went back on all these, favorite acts that broke out, and I thought, oh yeah, I remember this came out, and I looked and I was like, oh, we were talking about Hole the other day. Well, Hole had an album before it lived through this, and nobody knows it. It was terrible. But I found in all of this that it seems to me that the magic number is album like number 3. Because the first one, we always talk about how that first album has your life experience, everything leads up to that. There's so much passion there, but maybe it doesn't always come together very well. And then the second one, you might overcorrect, try to make it much more technical. I think a lot of acts kind of hit their groove. Maybe the third album could be second, could be fourth or whatever, but I just found a lot of breakthrough albums that weren't debuts usually had maybe 2 predecessors. So anyway,
and there's also those albums where the artist releases one great debut album, like The Laws, and never release another album. There's there's a singer-songwriter, Willis Allen Ramsey, that people were always telling me about because he was such a big influence on them, and it's like he's an influence because of one album. He released 30 years after the fact, he started releasing albums again. But he released this one album, and all these singer-songwriters heard it and loved it, and that was it.
Sometimes one's all it takes.
Yeah.
But, well, anyway, I ultimately had found a way to organize this and make myself comfortable. It doesn't make much sense, and I'm just picking not like what I think are the best debut albums, but albums that I thought were really good, and how they influenced other debut albums that came after them. So it's sort of and it's in tropes types of music that I'm particularly interested in. So it's not just this big sweeping look at every genre and all kinds of, representation from all different fields and all different eras, but it's just sort of I went back maybe 30 years or so and picked some and then followed descendants of their sound and other people who had great debut albums with some similar approach.
Well, with me, I've chosen a lot of the usual suspects. A lot of people you'll say, oh yeah, sure. Because those are obvious. But one of the things that's interesting to me about it are like some of the biggest and the best artists, their debut albums weren't very good.
Right.
Bob Dylan, The Beatles' first album is, I mean, I think all Beatles albums are essential, but it's like, I don't think it's a great debut album.
Right.
Rolling Stones, even the Kinks.
Right.
You know, they're
even Madonna. I saw some people like trying to put Madonna's first album. It's like she sounded like Minnie Mouse on helium.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that was not a great album, people.
Well, and I saw a list. We both looked at other people's lists when we were doing this. Somebody put Taylor Swift's first album on there, and it's like, I mean, you know, we both really like Taylor Swift, but that first album is like, it's a good album for a young artist.
For a kid, yeah, she was a kid, but it's way ahead of, you know, very precocious for a kid, but you know, great album. I mean,
it's not a.
Those were yet to come for her.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I mean, and it's. I think you're right on the 3 thing. It took 3 albums before she really kind of hit her stride,
right,
and was great.
Right. Were we talking on the air about the 3 thing, or is that something?
No, that's actually that was. I think we did that before we started, didn't we?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we don't know. Well, so what I said about the 3 thing is that there's a lot of mythology and everything about the first album, and a lot of times it's a great album because it's probably your most passionate album. You've had your whole life that you've lived up to that point to get that album out there.
Yeah.
But it might be technically flawed, or you might have some difficulties that you didn't anticipate when you were getting that out there. The second album, for a lot of acts, it's a lot of overcorrection.
Right.
So it's like suddenly it's more technically sharp and polished and everything, but then not as natural feeling. And I found that, and this is, you know, it varies from act to act, but the third album seems to be kind of a magic number of a group or a singer hitting stride and getting the passion and getting the technical elements all together. And a lot of breakout albums that I've looked at were like album number 3 or album number 4 for a lot of acts. So
yeah, I think the ones that last a lot of times, that's what it goes to. A lot of times the third album is when you feel like you realize, oh yeah, it wasn't all that.
Right.
I mean, or the ones where it's like they're just a little bit maybe bored. I mean, one of my very top picks, being my top 5 of all debut albums, is the Doors' first album.
Okay.
The Doors' first album is great. Okay. It's start to finish. And I mean, the Doors are not one of my favorite acts. They're maybe in my top 30, 40 favorite acts.
Okay.
But their debut album is just terrific, and their follow-up album is not quite as good, but really good. And then you get the third album, it's like, it's okay.
Right.
It takes their last album before you get another album as good as the first.
I was just getting ready to say, I think their last album is their best.
Yeah, L.A. Woman.
L.A. Woman's fantastic.
It's the one that comes up and just about equals the first one, if not betters it.
And the thing with bands, as opposed to singers, is a lot of times they do get sick of each other, you know, and they want to go in different directions. So bands will fall apart after, you know, third album or fourth album sometimes.
But I got to say, and we could do a whole other thing that you wouldn't want to do.
No.
It's like a lot of times it's the falling apart album that's my favorite album.
Yeah.
When there's so much strife in the
Chaos.
band. Yeah, something about it. You just get that energy, even though it's negative energy.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's great.
Yeah. Well, what do you want to do here? You want to go first, Wayne, and just get us into this, because I don't know how to.
Well, I went with the Doors because I think if you hear that album, everything is there. It's the musicianship they're at the top of their game. I know you can't. This is not on video, so you can't see Chuck smirk at me.
I'm trying to look very interested.
And
I yawn when I'm interested.
But once you get to Light My Fire, it's like this whole statement of purpose. This band sounds different than everybody else. They use all these different elements. There's all this jazz element in it. And, of course, Light My Fire is the first song that Robbie Krieger wrote. Kind of unbelievably, everybody, gives all the songwriting credit to Morrison. You keep laughing at me, Chuck.
Sorry.
Yes, I'm a nerd. But it's great. And since I've got started here, another one I think is absolutely tremendous that maybe never was topped by the artist is John Prine's solo album, their debut album. It had every song on it pretty much has become a standard. I mean, Sam Stone, Legal Smile. I mean, it's just Paradise. It's every song is terrific, and it's sort of what you were talking about. He was his whole life into that album, but it turned out, of course, in the next album and the albums after that, these were a lot of songs he already had written with that first album. He just chose the absolute peak of everything he had for the first one, and the rest are great. I don't think he released an album that wasn't at least good. But man, the first album is just a monolith in singer-songwriters. And when you compare it to somebody like, Bob Dylan's first album, it's not very good. His second album is good, but it's probably the third one where you finally get that Bob Dylan is incredible.
Right.
But with John Prine, you got it right at the outset.
Right.
He was a postman. He wrote these songs while he was delivering the mail.
Oh, wow.
And then, and it's great because Roger Ebert went out one night and saw him in a bar when he was, I think he'd missed a movie or something like that. And he was out in a bar and he heard him and he wrote a column like that night or the next night about this singer-songwriter nobody's heard of that's incredible. And that led to his first album being released.
Well, there you go.
There you go. So you've got to pick.
Oh boy, I don't know how to explain this, so I just won't. I went back a few decades for looking at really good debut albums, and then I looked down the line, like I was saying, at other artists that were influenced, or not necessarily influenced, but like descendants of that sound. So I want to start with. Which one should I start with, Wayne? When you hate, or when you sort of hate, or when you really hate, or
everything we talked about before are things I like.
Well, no. Okay, I'm going to go with the offbeat. Okay, let's go with the B-52s, 1979, their debut album. It started. They had Rock Lobster on that, and you just listen to that song alone, and it's like, good Lord, there's never been anything that sounds like this before, and. It was also really strong in musicianship, too. It wasn't just they were a bunch of clowns out there.
Strange musicianship,
yep. That Ricky Wilson had a very distinct way of playing guitar.
Very percussive. It wasn't like anybody else was playing guitar.
Right.
Very amateurish, too, but in a smart way.
Right, in a real smart yeah, exactly. And it wasn't just that one song, either. There were a lot of great songs. There was 52 Girls, where Kate and Cindy are just singing names of women, and... Planet Claire, which was like a sci-fi kind of horror film, when Fred was narrating it, Fred Schneider, and talking about, what is it? All the tree. No one has a head.
No one has a head. Yeah.
No one has a head. No one ever died. Anyway. And then I like just the title of "There's a Moon in the Sky" called the Moon. I mean,
it's one of the best titles of all time.
Yeah. So that offbeatness, and I know they weren't the first offbeat band, but they were the first one to catch my ear and to be so unique and everything. You could see it manifest in different ways with different artists. Not necessarily, nothing really as unusual as the B-52s. But I think even Men at Work, they found a way to kind of make it more pop-friendly, but they were odd. The Australian band, they came along a couple of years later with Business as Usual, and they had Who Can It Be Now, and Down Under, which was like a really fun song, and the video, and the flute, and the guy with the koala, shackled to his ankle, and but then it went on to Cyndi Lauper, and She's So Unusual,
right.
1983. She had a lot of really strong ballads on there. She had Time After Time, and she said she had also Money Changes Everything. But she had Girls Just Want to Have Fun, and I could totally imagine the B-52s doing Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
Yeah.
And also She Bop. I could
She-Bop.
totally picture them doing She Bop too. I mean, both do very offbeat. And of course, she had the costuming thing, which is also similar to the B-52s. She wasn't, these are more like, second cousins or third cousins or everything, not direct descendants of B-52s, but people who just went off and were different.
And see, I totally agree with that. I agree with all those as being some of the best debut albums of all time.
Okay.
And I totally agree. The B-52s came, I first saw the B-52s on Saturday Night Live.
Uh-huh.
And it was like, what the hell have I just watched?
Right.
they've got that little keyboard that they're playing. Yep. They've got the big hair. Yep. They got, Fred, who sounds like this. He doesn't sound like a regular singer.
Right.
And it's great.
Right.
And it changed. I think they kind of defined the whole new wave movement.
Right.
Because everybody else that came after had to have some influence by them.
Right. Either visual influence, a sonic influence.
Yeah. And it says something to the music industry at the time that they would sign somebody like the B-52s or Cyndi Lauper. Mm-hmm. And Cyndi Lauper has a hit about masturbation. I mean, the biggest hit. She Bop is bigger, I guess a bigger hit than I Touch Myself by the Divinals.
Right.
And
they'll be coming up later.
And I just thought it was great. I mean, we were talking before we started about how there aren't necessarily that many great debut albums anymore because they're not thinking about albums.
Right.
But at that time, the music industry thought about the whole package.
Right.
And
your money was in albums. Your money wasn't in singles.
And it gave you great albums.
Right.
Because of that.
Right.
Well,
I'm not done yet because I thought that the B-52's kind of unusual offbeatness followed into a lot of 90s alt rock and everything. Mm-hmm. And Weezer's Blue album, 1994, loved that album. It was a breakthrough. I mean, it had the sweater song, but what I really liked, not just that I like Buddy Holly as a song, but it just starts in the middle of the song. I
never thought about it, but it does.
Immediately, it's like there's no lead up, there's no intro, and they kind of Weezer to me represented kind of like a different type of man. It's sort of like kind of nerdy, kind of frat boy, and sort of just a composite of all these tropes you would see like in a John Hughes movie. One's the jock and and it was like kind of everything. Yeah. And it was that sly kind of offbeat thing, which I think is again that B-52's element. I see the unusualness.
Well, what Weezer was doing that was really different is they would play those nasty, ugly chords, those minor chords that would make the hair stand up on the back of your neck.
Yeah.
But it was kind of addictive.
Yeah. Well, they they had such great melodies too. And it just all worked together. I just mentioned Franz Ferdinand from 24. It's kind of like it continued on. And so all of these were all debut albums, and I think I'm just linking them back to the B-52s. So
right.
I'll drop that line.
Well, I mean, Weezer is one that was on my list too, and I think they were great. I think that album's great. But what's weird about Weezer is I think their second album is maybe their best album. Pinkerton, which at the time it came out, they thought, well, their career's over. This is a terrible album.
Right.
And it stood the test of time.
Right.
And I think people who are real Weezer nerds, a lot of them consider that to be their best album, and it's my favorite of the bunch.
Okay.
But it continued on with that minor chord kind of stuff. It just didn't have anything that was going to make it on the radio.
Right. And just then, that initial punch,
And then the third album comes out, the Green Album, and they're back on the radio. Everybody loves them again.
Right.
But
which one had the half Japanese girls? Was that on Pinkerton?
That's the Pinkerton has the one where he's fantasizing about the Japanese girl that wrote him the letter.
Okay.
And he's
and all of a sudden, just the way it begins.
And then you're like going away with it. Oh, this is sweet. And then he says he imagines about how you touch yourself, and it's like, okay, all right, it's not exactly as innocent as I thought it was.
Right.
But,
all right. Well,
but it's great.
I'll pitch that one aside.
Well, on sort of the same subject as things that were jarring, Patti Smith's first album, Horses, did the same thing.
Okay.
I mean. And I had looked at like Rolling Stone and a couple other places where they'd pick things. And Patti Smith's Horses is way on back there, and the Ramones is way up top. And I love the Ramones, but I think Patti Smith was more shocking when she came out. Because the Ramones basically go back to the 50s, just, basic 4/4 rock and roll and throw out all the pretentious stuff, which is great. But Patti Smith is like a poet who is also in the gutter with like the lowest folks on the street and putting it in your face. And when she, again, I saw her on Saturday Night Live when she came off, and I thought, this is almost disturbing. And I thought she was going to like OD. I mean, they parodied her with
Gilda Radner did that.
Candy Slice.
Yes.
And it was, but when she came out, it was unlike anything else, and especially for a woman to be doing that,
right?
Because you had the Joni Mitchells and the sweet singer-songwriter. Even though Joni Mitchell was very edgy and much edgier than she was given credit for,
she wasn't braless in a tank top, though.
She wasn't braless in a tank top and singing, "Jesus died for somebody's sins, but not mine." Yeah. We were like, "Oh shit!"
No, that wasn't really Joni Mitchell style.
But that's another one. And, of course, all these things came out in the 70s and the early 80s that we're talking about. Well, I guess Weezer didn't come out in that thing. Weezer was the 90s, I guess.
Weezer's 90s, Franz Ferdinand 2004.
Yeah.
So.
But I think that debut albums that have some shock and originality to them are the ones that, a lot of the ones that really last.
Right. They do.
Well, and similar to that, one that I was going to bring up is Television, Marquee Moon.
Yeah.
It's a great album, and it stood the test of time.
And has a song on it that was, how long is the Marquee Moon is like 7-8 minutes long or something at a time.
When punk music, everybody was 3 chords and a cloud of dust.
Right.
They were doing long, extended, jazz-oriented solos.
Yeah, which was just not what was in the mix at the time, and it was
right. And Tom Verlaine was a poet. I mean, his lyrics are really obscure, and you have to kind of dig in to see what they're saying.
Yeah, well, in that one, you've got 2 great guitar players, and, Richard Lloyd Verlaine and Lloyd are really different.
Mm-hmm. Really different, but very complementary.
Yeah. And it stood out. Well, another one kind of in the same league is Elvis Costello's My Aim Is True, which I don't think is as good as his second album.
Because he didn't have the attractions yet.
Yeah, he didn't have the attractions. The band he was using was
Clover?
Clover. It was Huey Lewis was the band that he was in.
Really? I didn't know that.
It was Huey Lewis.
I did not know that, but I knew it wasn't the attractions.
No, it was Clover. I think they were all Americans that were over there for some reason.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna veer off here on something that you don't like at all. But it's divas, okay? And I think in '85, Whitney Houston's self-titled Diva album was like a whole new level of diva and singing hard and getting those notes out and all that. And 5 years later, along came Mariah Carey. And I know you really don't like her, but when she first came out, 1990, Vision of Love, she was 18 or 19 years old.
Right.
And that song was just gripping because it was just, she went deep and she went high, and it was, it really felt like an event, to hear that song. It's like, wow, where is she going to go with this? And turns out, she went through trickery and vocal gymnastics for years and years. But I thought her 1990, but then 92, Mary J. Blige with What's the 411. Now there was grounded soul music, and just like Real Love, that song, just like beautiful, kind of made Whitney and Mariah both look a little, I hate to say fake, but fake.
Right.
But anyway, and then
Mary J. Blige didn't have to prove everything that she could do.
No, she just
That's what I like.
She let her voice speak for herself.
Right.
She didn't have to, have dog whistle notes or anything like that. But I liked all of these women. And then Adele, I think, in 2008 with 19. Again, she was 19, and she had that voice, and it was very kind of similar to Mariah Carey in that, first you were just blown away by her voice and her talents and everything. And over the years, it's gotten more like, she's more like an instrument than a voice. I don't know how to explain it, but it doesn't always ring as true as it did early on, I think.
Huh.
I think she's good. And then I had to throw this one in here because I consider her the anti-diva. And that's Lana Del Rey in 2012. Because she took all of the trademarks of the divas and turned them inside out. Yeah. So instead of doing these high piercing things, she'll just drop into like a mumble or a groan and everything. And all this exalted love songs and how the whole world has changed and everything's wonderful. And hers are just the opposite. And her debut album was Born to Die. Mm-hmm. All of these women just blew it out with their debut albums. that's why they're here. But with Lana Del Rey, her debut album was Born to Die, and I think her whole kind of mumbling through this Born to Die, it was just the antithesis. Oh boy, I found another word I can't do. But antithesis. Lana Del Rey was the antithesis of these other women because she was doing the whole, we're probably not going to be together for long, and just don't make me mad, and let's get high, and we're all born to die, and that was like the whole theme of it. But still, it was like the mirror version of the diva because, she was just the inverse of everything they did, but still following a similar pattern, if that makes sense.
No, I think that totally makes sense. And, I mean, you're right. I don't like Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey, but their debut albums changed music.
Yes.
For the worse, I would say, because so many people oversang because of them. But I agree with you on Lana Del Rey because, I mean, she did what, and you know how much I love Norah Jones, and Norah Jones' debut album is another one that's a big standout for me because she took it back, and Mary J. Blige is kind of the same way.
Mary J. Blige is great.
They know how, they serve the song more than let me show you what I can do with my voice.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what, I feel like even Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey were trying to do that in the beginning because they were putting their soul in it. I think the producer's like, oh man, we got something real special here. Hey, why don't you take this higher? Why don't you take this higher? And it's like there became more and more tricks, and you kind of lose their soul in it. But I, like I say, with I Will Always Love You, I think Whitney Houston was really holding it in and not just ringing notes, without words. She was at least sticking to the words. So there's a balancing act there. I mean, if you've got a remarkable voice, use it, but still let the emotion be the trump card.
Well, see, that's why I'm glad you brought up Adele, because I think Adele does that way better than they did, and she's got a tremendous voice too. Yeah. But and I'll bring up, since you're on divas, I'll bring up one that I had mentioned before we started that I think is, she's not cool anymore, is Bette Midler. Bette Midler's first album, The Divine Miss M, is a great album. And she threw everything she had at it. She doesn't, I mean, she's real brassy, but she doesn't just like try to show you everything she can do with her voice. But she picked great songs, including a John Prine song.
Let's bring it around.
To bring it back to John Prine.
Prine.
But she chose great songs. She didn't write songs herself, but she chose terrific songs, and she knew how to deliver a lot of different styles.
What did you think of Barbra Streisand?
See, I never believed Barbra Streisand. That's the thing. I think she's got a tremendous voice, but I always feel like she's acting.
Right.
Every time she sings.
You mean like Mariah, or?
Yeah, kind of like that. I mean, I just don't believe them. They don't touch me when I'm paying too much to what they're doing technically. Right. It's like technical guitar players. I'm sure John could weigh in on things like that, because it's like you listen to some guitar players and you think, man, that's amazing. That's so dull.
Right. Well, I've come to the realization that good art makes you go, wow, how'd they do that? But great art, you go, I could do that.
Yeah.
So like you listen to Steve Cropper, who plays like one bent note, and it's just so soulful that you can't believe it. And then you listen to, Yngwie Malmsteen playing 9 million notes a minute and don't feel anything.
Yeah, but it's...
This is John Baker, by the way.
Hi.
We need to start introducing John at the outset.
Our engineer, our third voice, our guidepost.
But yeah, that's the thing to me, is like you've got to make it. You got to feel it.
Right.
And with Barbra Streisand, and I appreciate what a great singer she is, and there's all sorts of people like that, guitarists the same way. I got to feel it.
Right.
And yeah, it's somebody. I mean, Stevie Ray Vaughan's debut album, Texas Flood. I think he's a guitar player. You got it right off the bat. This guy really feels what he's playing, and it was another great debut album. I think he got better than that. I think Can't Stand the Weather's better, maybe. But
so, I mean, does it help if it's just a little bit off kilter, or something? If it's technically perfect,
sometimes
does that leave you cold?
Sometimes it can be technically perfect and still be great. I mean, I think Steely Dan. I mean, they overdid everything, but sometimes that's what it needed to be. But I can hear some old blues singer. There's a blues singer called Precious Bryant. I think she died about 10 years ago. And she just plunked at her guitar. And she had this voice that was just sounded like the old cleaning lady. But man, you got it. Because it was just something about it. It was kind of rough. I mean, Chet Atkins told me that he would be walking down the street and hear somebody busking on the street, and he'd go back and say, "How'd you do that?" Because he was listening and hearing these things that were different.
Right.
And I think that's what sells music. I mean, Louie, they come in at the wrong place. They start to sing and they're so drunk.
Oh, some of my favorite songs just have false starts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's it's just sounding natural enough so that it touches your soul a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, it shows that they're human beings making it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of just phenomenal musicians that just bore the piss out of me. I just can't stand it. And plenty of people that can barely play and, sometimes barely sing. I mean, one of the things that, when I was looking over lists, I would always see the Velvet Underground and Nico's album come up as best debuts of all time. Mm-hmm. And I love the Velvet Underground. I love Lou Reed. But that album, Nico, who could not carry a tune in a bucket, she couldn't carry, if you gave her the tune in a bucket, she couldn't even pick it up.
Right.
I think she ruins that album to some extent. I
agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, when she sings Femme Fatale and she is as flat as you could ever be. I mean, Lou Reed was flat. He had a poor voice, but he knew how to sing.
Right.
She doesn't even know how to sing.
Right.
And it's like, that album is incredibly influential. Nobody heard it when it came out. All the critics go crazy over it. And like I said, I love the Velvet Underground too, and I love those songs. But it's not one of the great debut albums of all time because Nico is on it, and Nico sucks.
Worse than Yoko?
No, Lord God.
Yoko.
Oh, Yoko's debut album, Plastic Ono Band, gosh, I mean, you compare that to Nico's singing, I'd take Yoko any day.
Okay.
And all Yoko did in that album was scream.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's blasphemy to say, "Oh, Nico sucks," but Nico sucked. I'm sorry, I didn't.
Okay,
I didn't hear.
Move away from Wayne, so
I know,
they don't get hit by the lightning.
People are going to be. I mean, I didn't, and I'll be honest. I have not been able to force myself to listen to her later albums, which some people love, but some people love her on other things. I mean, some people love her on that first Velvet Underground album, but I find her almost unlistenable.
Okay. And I'm not even sure.
Let us know how you really feel.
Yeah.
Have you heard that singer Nico?
What's so funny about the Velvet Underground is you had the two lead singers in the first album who, I mean, I love Lou Reed, but he does not have a good voice. John Cale, who doesn't sing, he has a good voice. Right. And he was on there. He just didn't sing.
Right. Oh, I hate that. I hate that when you know that when you're listening to the backing vocals and thinking, wow, why can't that be the lead vocal? It happens all the time.
Yeah, but it's funny. I mean, but there are plenty of people who are technically bad singers like Ian Hunter from Mott the Hoople that I love.
Right.
But man, there's a line that you cross, and Nico is right across that line.
Right. Well, I was going to go into a whole rap thing.
Uh-huh.
So that's going to make what I really go into a little bit easier for you to take, I think. Because I was thinking about NWA and Straight Outta Compton and the gangster rap versus like the more political rap of Public Enemy, and then party rap like Beastie Boys or whatever, and then solo, and I thought, oh God, we're not going to have good conversation here. And well, I mean, anyway, so what I'm going to talk about instead is electronic music, but I'm going to lead off with Laurie Anderson's Big Science,
which we can agree on.
Yes, we can agree on, and it does have elements of electronic. There was electronic music before that, of course. I talk about Kraftwerk a lot, and there were a lot of bands, that used electronic music in the 70s and everything. But Laurie Anderson, Big Science, so imaginative. Not because of the electronic, but she has that very wry voice. It's mostly spoken, and it's very I don't know, sarcastic and weird and funny and atmospheric and ambient, and there's like that real jarring song Sweaters, where she's just like, I no longer love the color of your sweater, and she's like, but then like the example 22 goes into like German, and then there's like backing vocal or backward, what is that called? Backward tape vocals. And then of course there's Big Science itself. There's just some beautiful songs on there too, and you just get caught up and like you hear just this real what is it, it's cold outside, don't forget your mittens, and stuff like that. But it's just like such a refreshing way, I think, that she brought electronic music into performance art. She wasn't, they weren't rock songs or pop songs or anything like that. And I remember Night Flight would play that video for I guess it was Big Science. Right. And it just seemed like it was about a half hour long, but it didn't matter. It was like you just sit there and watch it.
Well, how long is Oh Superman? Oh Superman's like a 5-6 minutes.
That's one thing. Yeah, Oh Superman, not Big Science. That's the name of the album, but Oh Superman, and it is forever. It's I think she's still singing it somewhere. So, but what I did with that is that was in '82 when that came out. And I started looking at where electronic music has gone since then, and it's gone all over the place and in different ways. And this is a stretch, and these are all going to be stretches for you because you're probably not going to like them. But in 1986, Pet Shop Boys came out with Please. That was their debut. And it was absolutely 100% anchored in synthetic sounds. And they had West End Girls, and they had and Neil Tennant, the lead singer, he is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, it's like I'm not a nerd. I can't remember names. I can't remember anything. But anyway, opportunities and let's make lots of money and anyway, it was very captivating, and it was, even though synthetic music was in all kinds of new wave bands and everything, but Pet Shop Boys just sank all the way into it, kind of like Laurie Anderson did, and then they just like took it into a different realm. And then I'm going to go even further away, Wayne. I'm going to just have you furious by the time I get to the end of this. But
I'm not a Pet Shop Boys fan. But
well, now, come on. You didn't like West End Girls? Anyway, the East End Boys liked West End Girls.
That's true. I know that.
So the Lords of Acid, 1991, their debut, Lust, and you've heard some of their songs, and it's the album that starts with Darling, Come Here, and you know the next line of that. That was just a very raw, primal electronic sound, and it was very sexual, and that sexual tension in the electronic sounds that is so predominant now. This is like 20-something years, 30-something years since Lords of Acid came out with their debut, and half the pop songs you hear now have like traces of this. We're in a very sensual time right now, Wayne. I don't know if you knew that or not, but
I'm glad somebody is. But
and all these singers are tapping into that, and then kicking up forward a little more because I don't want to take too much time here. Daft Punk in 1997, their debut, Homework. That was the French duo. They are being sampled by all kinds of people from all different. Even Kanye West sampled them. So although he samples everything, but. Anyway, just seeing how Laurie Anderson was kind of on the front end, although there had been electronic music, she was on the front end of interpreting it in a way where you just sink into it and you don't just use it as an instrumentation. You become part of it. You become an instrument. She's not robotic. Well, she's sort of robotic on Big Science.
It's funny. I mean, I think she tries to sound robotic, but sounds more human doing it.
Yeah.
Because
she reminds me of whoops, I just did. She reminds me of Alexa. I mean, she's like
she's so much better than Alexa.
Or GPS voice, or an AI thing. It's like there's a certain precision to how she's speaking, and she's very clearly enunciating.
Right.
But there's this little soul in it too. With her,
Well, that's the thing with like Oh Superman. Even though and she breaks in there and starts saying, the time is, or whatever she does in it. But it's like there's a sense of humor. Mm-hmm. There's like just a sense of this is a real person trying to play with me. Mm-hmm. And that's, I mean, and when you interview her, she's like, she's just as natural as she can be. And I just think you get that in everything she does. And I agree. I think that debut, which is one I hadn't thought about, but I think it's tremendous. Yeah. And I mean, and it's very much like, this is a statement of purpose. This is who she's going to be later on. She did an album later on called, I think, Strange Angels, where she actually just really does create regular songs and sing.
Right.
And it's really good.
Right.
But nothing's as good as her just riffing and doing whatever the weird-ass stuff is she does.
Right. I agree. She just, it's very intelligent.
Yeah, that's probably the big thing.
That's the subset. She's not just like, there's as primal as Lords of Acid may be, or whatever. She's very, very cerebral.
Yeah, but it's cerebral in trying to connect.
Yes. Yeah.
And all that music and all her stories and everything, she's very, very, she's connecting with you on a very human level.
Yeah, there's something very soothing about her. Like, even when things are bad, it's going to be okay, because she's like your alter ego or something. You can incorporate her into your own brain.
Well, I don't know if you saw her movie Heart of a Dog.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, it is great.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, you get to the end of it and you just basically want to cry.
We saw it at Big Ears. We saw it together.
Yeah, we did see it together. We did.
Oh boy. But we saw that together. But yeah, and oh my God, the dog. I mean, just to bring it all around and to include a dog into the whole story.
Right.
Just like so touching, really touching.
Yeah, so. It's tremendous. I mean, she is, as much as she tries to be non-human, electronic, she's one of the most human artists out there.
I agree.
Well, I've got a bunch that you won't like, Chuck.
Oh, cool.
I mean, ones you'll hate.
Oh, cool.
Hate. Leonard Skinner's debut
I'm mad
album.
already.
Spelled, it's pronounced Leonard Skinnerd.
I have to leave the room.
It is, it's great. It kicked off this whole movement that they're one of the few bands that really should have been in that movement because there's a lot of really bad music that came after them. But that album is just a juggernaut. It's great. And, I mean, everybody's sick of Freebird, but Freebird was, when it came out, a tremendous song and just blew everybody away. And it's
like those Mariah Carey songs you don't like.
Yeah, there's Mariah Carey.
Mariah Carey didn't have 3 guitar players.
That's right. They had 3 guitar players. 3, count them. And
needed them all.
I tried my best as a kid to be a snob and not like Leonard Skinner, and it's like it was pointless because they were a great band, and that debut album is tremendous. I don't know that it's their best album, but it's at least as good as every other album they did.
It put them on the map.
It definitely put them on the map. Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experienced?
Okay.
Which came out in 1967.
What you all don't know is before we started talking, I named off all these 1967 albums and said, oh, God, we're not going through that. And Wayne said, why, yes, we are.
But wait.
But it absolutely revolutionized guitar playing, and you got...
I can't take that away.
Yeah, and I know you're not an electric guitar guy, but it's just like everything after that changed. Everybody tried to do what he did, and nobody could, but some really interesting things came out of it. Mm-hmm. But the biggest thing is, he was a great songwriter. The Wind Cries Mary is on there, and Manic Depression, and Purple Haze, and these are all good songs, and when you hear other people do them without the guitar fireworks, they're still good. And I just think that's it's just such a pivotal album. And the big thing about these, like when we were talking about the Velvet Underground, these were albums, that was an album that a handful of people heard and loved at the time, but most people didn't get it. People got it with Hendrix. And I think that's kind of important on debut albums, is that it makes a dent. Mm-hmm. I didn't pick albums that were like, oh, this is an obscure thing, it's going to make me sound cool.
Right. Yeah, I didn't either.
Yeah.
Obviously.
But these are albums that, people got.
Yeah.
You could go to somebody's house and hear that album.
They were influential, too.
Right. Yeah. So there's that one. And then there's the Stooges' first album, which is probably,
you beat me to it.
Yeah, I mean, gosh.
Again, I don't think it's their best record.
No, I think Funhouse is better.
Yeah.
And actually, Raw Power, even though that doesn't have the original members, I mean, that's a toss-up.
But it was a shot heard around the world, and you could make a really good argument that the Stooges' first album, The Stooges, was the first punk record.
Yeah, you can make. I don't think it was, but I totally am with that argument. It's like it is one of the first, and the John Cale's original mix, which you can hear on the special edition of it. They've got several of the tracks from his original mix. It's even better than what they released. It's rawer sounding. And that was the thing about it, is that album is raw as all get out, but even more so in the mix that they didn't release, which they should have. But yeah, the Stooges are great. And then, in the same kind of rock and roll vein, bringing things back, the Black Crowes' Shake Your Moneymaker is an absolutely terrific debut album. And it's not their best album. Their next album was better. But, man, I mean, it was at a time when rock and roll was at a low ebb, and they just brought back Stonesy riffs and just shake your butt kind of rock.
Because it was mostly hair metal out then.
Yeah, it was all flashy, and they just got back to, this is great rhythm track and good guitar player and solid songs. And it made a difference.
All right.
Yeah, I'm going to move on to a couple other things here in a minute, Chuck.
You've silenced me.
I lambasted you with the stuff I know you hate.
When did that come out? What is that song he's talking about? When was this?
Well, and I will say, we were talking about how, before we started, how the music industry has changed. And it's now we don't have a lot of albums that are like, boom, this is a great album. But it goes back to the 50s, too. It was the same thing. They had a bunch of singles, and you don't have a lot of great albums from the 50s because that wasn't the emphasis, and that's kind of the way it is now.
Right.
So, and in genres, country music was like there were no great country albums. There were great country singles.
Right.
But pretty much till the 80s, great country albums were greatest hits albums.
Right.
But there's two that they'll put out there. Randy Travis's Storms of Life is a great debut album. And Steve Earle's Guitar Town, even though he recorded an album before that but it didn't get released, Guitar Albums is actually first release. Those are both.
Why do you suppose country music was so singles oriented back when albums were perfectly viable?
Probably because
the genres.
Well, the audience wasn't the same. I think in the 60s, when albums became a thing, it was the Beatles who really made albums a thing. I mean, it was two artists, Frank Sinatra and the Beatles, are the ones who made albums a thing in pop music. And in country music, it was like, here's some singles, we'll put an album together, and maybe they're going to buy it, maybe they're not, but it was full of filler. So there was an audience.
And the singles, they would drive concerts, I guess.
Yeah, they drive concerts and the radio and everything else. But I don't think, and kind of the same with R&B. Country and R&B were like side by side for years and years. And they were both singles oriented. Nobody focused on the albums because I don't think as many people from those audiences were poor people for the most part who weren't going to go out and buy an album, which you could get an album back then for 45 cents. When I started buying albums, I think they were 78 cents a piece. Well, singles.
Blue-collar people didn't have time to just have a cup of coffee and sit and listen to an hour-long album and think about what it means. They wanted a 3-minute song.
Of course, back then an album was only like 30 minutes.
Right.
The Beatles albums, original albums, are all under 30 minutes.
And we come back around there, too. The songs are short now. Short.
When CDs came in, everybody had to have an 80-minute album because it could fit on a CD.
How much room would fit.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Exactly.
No, exactly. There were a lot of
CDs really in the early CD thing that had a bunch of garbage on
it. I remember when something would come in, that I knew I was going to have to review, and I would look at it and be like 17 tracks.
I remember hearing you talk about that.
It's like a whole nother, half hour out of my life for no reason. And I remember writing a lot of reviews, and it's just like they needed to edit. They needed to edit this down.
Yeah, and one of the worst offenders is one of my favorite artists, Prince.
Yeah, Prince.
Prince released so many things.
He sure did.
Later on, that was just too damn long.
Yeah, they're just, redundant, too long.
Yeah.
Or just too much.
Yeah.
Too much, yeah.
Well, same with Guided by Voices. They're a great band. But man, Robert Pollard, the singer of the band, I mean, he just writes an album every week.
Yeah.
It's just like you can't tread water. It's like you drown in all the material.
Well, and that's like Ryan Adams.
Respect your audience.
Yeah. And Ryan Adams is the same way. It's like he'd release an album that was, man, this is a great album. Then release 5 others. And it's like, don't you have an editor? Don't you ever think, maybe this song is not as good as this other song. Maybe I need to leave this one off.
I think he thinks too highly of himself.
He does.
Well, I mean, there's no doubt narcissism is a big, downer for a clean, crisp album.
Yeah. Yeah, but you had so many people who were afraid to criticize these artists, especially, somebody like him. I mean, once Elton John said all the wonderful things Elton John said about Ryan Adams, it was like, okay, everything I do is golden. And yeah. But yeah, I don't think his debut album is all that either.
Well, let me jump in
with
something you will like, and that is the Pretenders' debut album.
I can't believe we haven't talked about the Pretenders yet.
Well, I wanted to save it. I wanted to make you listen to divas and electronic music first. I wanted to torture you a little bit and save the best here. Oh my God. I mean, what a great album. So many great songs.
Goes from strength to strength. It's fantastic.
So much badassery from Chrissie Hynde. I mean, she really, I've said this before, that her whole, and she even said this, like her whole motive was, it's not F me, it's F you. And she really was, she was a biker chick, but not the one on the back of some dude's motorcycle. She was on her own motorcycle, maybe off on her own, and everything, just all the songs, just all the fury, the rock, the anger, the smartness, the just clapping back at everybody, and it came from kind of a hard place for her, because she did have kind of a tough time. She grew up in Ohio, and I think she was assaulted
by a whole motorcycle
gang. Yeah, and that would be enough to. This was amazing therapy. I mean, if someone who's been assaulted can work their way through it like she did, you'll definitely come out better on the other side, But so influential, too, because women, it wasn't that women rockers didn't exist before her, and it's not that they didn't have attitude before her, but she just rode it through on everything she did. And so other women who came along in her wake, with this bad. You want to say more about the Pretenders, though? Because, I mean, I know you also, both of you,
Yeah. It may be my favorite debut album of all time.
Yeah, mine
it's
too.
Just,
really.
It's
so out of the gate, fantastic. Just the rock and the lyrics and the Tattoo Love Boys, and Precious.
Well, it was coming out of it. I mean, it was coming out of the punk era, and she was involved with the Sex Pistols and all those folks. She was a writer in England, writing about rock music.
She abandoned Ohio and moved to England.
And she was in the middle of all that, and wanted to be in a band, wanted to have her own band, and I think it had aborted a couple of projects that never happened. But God Almighty, when she got with those guys, it was punky, but it was also professional enough so that you didn't think, oh, this is rough. It's not really rough. It was just had that raw energy that was just a punch in the gut.
And everything's very thoughtful too. In a way. Everything's very carefully, meticulously planned out. So she would be a great serial killer, I think, because I think she could get away with anything, and has no fear, So And it's interesting because it was such an amazing album, and then they had other albums that, on their own, are great albums.
Right.
But you keep looking at that first album, and it was just it's hard to get that initial, excitement. It's hard to regenerate that.
Well, with the Pretenders, I mean, they released that album, and it was just incredible. And then there was a short period of time where they were putting out 10-inch EPs.
Okay.
So their second release was like a 10-inch EP, and it had, I think, Message of Love and a couple of the great songs that were on the second album. But the other things that were on the second album were nowhere near as good.
Right.
And then, the bass player, Jim Farndon, and the guitar player,
Simon Scott.
Chambers.
Martin Chambers and
He's still the drummer.
Yeah. They survived, but the other two died.
Yeah.
And then they released Learning to Crawl again.
It's a great record.
Yeah.
Third album, Learning to Crawl, is phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's Robbie McIntosh on guitar.
Yeah.
And she's got such a distinctive voice with that quaver in it and everything.
Yeah.
It's real pathos, and she's done softer songs too that are really. I love Human. I don't know, and that's just a beautiful song. And I mentioned here some time ago she did a wonderful version of Creep. You know, with all the Radiohead song, with all the believability that Tom York had.
Yeah.
You know? So, but go ahead.
No, I was just saying that she is one of those people that people talk about the Runaways and some of the other female artists that came out, and they were great. I don't have anything bad to say about them, but I don't think Chrissie Hynde gets near enough credit just for just kicking the door open and just stomping it to pieces.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right, I agree. And so some other debut albums that came along. I've mentioned Divinyls before, but not much. Mm-hmm. And they're an Australian band, and we've brought up I Touch Myself, which came later in their career.
Right.
They had some really rough, hardcore albums before that, and then they kind of polished up and did a song about female masturbation. And what do you know? That was their big hit. So she had Christina Amphlett, lead singer. She's passed away now. I think she died of cancer a few years ago. But they had their first album called Desperate, and I bought it. I don't think I've mentioned this here before. I know I've told you before. I bought it based on the cover alone. And it's because she was like in this schoolgirl outfit on the front. And she looks furious. And she looks like she's about to leap off that cover and strangle you. And meanwhile, the guys in the band, they're all like these handsome GQ-looking guys in the background. So she's like this little rotten, mongrel person in this schoolgirl. And I thought, I really like that. I like the font of the word Divinyls on it. I've never bought an album just like without hearing anything about them. And it just had all the fury and psychosis and everything going through her head. And she just had all this like pent up kind of nervous energy and everything that comes out. And really crisp songs. Again, that's Desperate from 1983. They had a couple of more good albums. And then they came out with I Touch Myself, which was more mainstream friendly, and then they got back into the hard rock stuff. And I think that I Touch Myself, I think that's a great song, a really inventive song, but that's probably their worst album. And so anyway, you can hear it was just a few years after the first Pretenders album, so you could kind of hear some Chrissie Hynde in her ear, or something like that, and who knows what else. And then to go even more off the deep end, Throwing Muses, which came about in the mid-'80s.
Yeah.
In 86, they had a debut album. And it was two stepsisters, Tanya Donnelly, who was kind of the secondary singer, and she went on to be in the band Belly. I had an interview with her once, very stable, normal, nice gal. And then Kristen Hirsch, who was her stepsister and kind of the leader of the band, who actually did have psychosis. I think she had schizophrenia, and she heard voices, and those voices that she heard were her lyrics. Wow. And there's just really kind of frightening intensity in these songs on Throwing Muses. And it's almost like this uncontrolled, and then you'll hear like Kristen doing a song and another song and Deranged and all that, and then Tanya Donnelly comes bouncing in with her song, and then it goes back to Kristen and everything, just this darkness, but it's so compelling. And you can. I would listen to that one like in the dark and just like listen and just think, where was her head at? It's almost like you're with her, in the mental hospital where she's getting treatment, and she is better now, and and great for that and everything. But sometimes great art does come from a dark place, and this is definitely one. And they were young; they were so young then too. I mean, I think they were both teenagers at the time. And then I'm going to go up to Garbage in 1995. Right. Shirley Manson. I was going to throw in Cranberries too, but Shirley Manson. Garbage, the key to that, you had 3 producers. It was like Butch Vig and I don't know, there were 3 big time producers from Wisconsin or whatever. And they got this Scottish singer who was a lot younger than them, Shirley Manson, who just so much fire and everything. And I think the first hit was I'm Only Happy When It Rains, and then Stupid Girl and all. But their debut was a big hit, and on one level, it was because of all this great production work, but it would have been nothing if they hadn't had her as a singer, because she made all the difference in the world. There's another one I'm going to mention in my recommended, but just all these badass women that came out after Chrissie Hynde, I think they all owe something to Chrissie Hynde.
Yeah, I think so too.
And I wanted to say also, bringing it up to modern times, we were saying how albums aren't really such a thing now, and so debut albums it's harder and harder to find as many compelling debut albums because people aren't conceptualizing music that way so much now. But Olivia Rodrigo, 2021, her album Sour, and then Billie Eilish, When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go, from 2019. Those are debut albums, just 2 incredible young women who have processed all of music. And Billie has an advantage that she has a brother who's a great producer. But and I think that both of these young women, Gen Z women, they have elements of everything I've talked about here. They're offbeat, they have electronic elements, they have badass, kick-ass rock elements, and they have a little bit of diva, not enough that would turn you off, but they're hope for the future. And there are we're in a very, very female-dominated time for popular music, and it's great because, I mean, we're kind of going places we might not have gone if we were in a more conventional, male-dominated time. So, but these 2, I'm looking forward to hearing them, till I die, and they're, hopefully not anytime soon, but anyway. So that's kind of it for me in debut albums.
Well, the only one that I wanted to add, and I meant to talk about it back when I was talking about John Prine, is Leonard Cohen's Songs of Leonard Cohen. Came out in '68, and it's another case where pretty much every song became a standard. It's got, Suzanne and So Long Marianne.
And he wrote his songs, right?
Yeah. He wrote his songs, and it was just, for the most part, just him and a guitar. And his style changed very little until the day he died. He started using like electronic drums and stuff, and would use a little bit more instrumentation.
When was that? When
he
pass
died?
Away? Yeah.
He died I think it was about 6 years ago, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Something like that. He had his last album was called You Want It Darker, which came out after he died. Well, actually, I think he had one after that his son put together from pieces. But he was consistent. The only album that I would not recommend by him is the one that Phil Spector produced called Death of a Ladies' Man. And it has the oddness is a little bit charming, but it's the only one where it's like, what the hell were you thinking? But
why? Was it too conventional or too much like other artists? Or
it was overproduced.
Yeah, Phil Spector can't help himself.
Yeah, right. He couldn't. It was overproduced, and the songs were not as good. And I don't know what he was thinking. I mean, after that album, he lost his contract with Columbia Records because they thought, "What the hell what's going on?" And then he released an album on Passport Records, this little bitty tiny label. And that album had Hallelujah on it, which
there you go.
It was like it wasn't a big hit at the time. It was about, maybe 10 years after that album was released.
The most covered songs ever.
The most miscovered song.
Well,
for the wrong
not
reasons.
Well. I don't mean well, but yeah.
We could do a whole show on that.
Well, we did talk about that.
Oh, we did.
About how
it's about sex. It's not about Jesus.
Right.
It's not about. I mean, it's got lots of religion in it, but it's Old Testament religion.
Right.
And
which has sex too.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's all about sex. The Old Testament is loaded with it.
Yeah.
But that's where he got his inspiration, and it's about Samson and David, and it's about sex. But anyway, The first album, Songs of Leonard Cohen, is absolutely an essential album. It's the most low-key thing you will ever hear, and it's brilliant. Okay. And unlike Dylan, who made maybe better albums overall, unlike most of these other great singer-songwriters, Leonard Cohen had it from the outset.
Right. That's great.
Well, I have two that I figured I would mention, but no one did.
Oh.
One is Are We Not Men by Devo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Great record.
Yeah.
And totally weird.
Completely new.
I could have added that to the B-52's offbeat.
I was expecting to hear that.
I should have.
It's a fantastic record, and they just turned every rock convention on its head.
Yeah.
And all of Devo's albums are great.
Yeah.
They got a little more disco-fied toward the end, but even then they're really good.
Yeah,
and they're a very subversive band.
Yeah.
And another one was from, I don't remember what year it was, but the first Smashing Pumpkins album, Gish.
Yeah.
A fantastic record. Billy Corgan at that point was just a master of guitar tone, and nobody was making albums that sounded like that.
Right.
The next album I think may be better. Siamese Dream I think is maybe better, but Gish is really, really good. And for a debut album, it just shook some foundations.
Yeah.
And I thought that was worth mentioning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, those are great ones.
Both of them.
Well,
you ready to recommend something? You want to recommend a movie?
Something?
Well, I can recommend. I just saw a movie called When Evil Lurks. It's an Argentine film. You can rent it. It's I think it's in theaters, some theaters out there, but I rented it off Amazon.
You're not going to do a music recommendation?
Yeah, I'm going to do that afterwards.
Oh, okay.
I thought we'd do the movies first.
Okay.
Because
we'll switch it up, Wayne.
I didn't know we. I think we go back and forth.
There's no rules.
Yeah.
There's no crying.
The heck are your rules
in here?
That's right. When Evil Lurks, it's an Argentine film. I think it was made actually a couple years ago, but it's being distributed now. And it is a very different take on the demon possession trope.
Okay. Very what take?
A very different take.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know if there's some folk tale or something that goes along with the different elements they have. But in this case, it's a couple of brothers in this little, small, tiny farming community in Argentina, and one of their neighbors, as they say, went rotten.
Oh, okay.
And when you go rotten, it means a demon has possessed you.
Oh, cool.
And you can't kill the person that it's possessed, or the evil goes everywhere.
Oh, wow.
And you can't, if you touch them, if you get any bodily fluids, then you can spread it. And it is, it's not the scariest film I've ever seen, but it has a couple of moments that ought to be taught in film schools. Mm-hmm. There's a scene where the action is happening in the beyond what is in the foreground, and that's what's in focus. But what's out of focus is what you're really afraid of, and it's right in front of you.
Right.
And when that takes hold, it is one of the most shocking scenes I've ever seen in a movie, and that's great.
We talked about that scene from Exorcist 3.
Yes.
Down the hallway. Yes.
That's one of the best ever, too.
That is, it's an okay movie. It's better than Exorcist 2.
Oh, by far.
That Exorcist 3 scene.
In the hospital. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. You better stay away from it, John. I know you don't like scary
movies.
And this was just like, because you're looking down the corridor of a hospital.
And you're watching, I think you're watching the security camera. Isn't that the security camera?
Yeah, you're on a security camera, and there's this nurse doing her thing and walking back and forth, and it's like, well, wow, what's going on here, and then, wow.
Yeah, and this is a similar thing.
Okay.
Because there's enough foreshadowing to know this is dangerous. This is a very dangerous thing that's happening here in the front that's just static.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it happens.
Oh, wow.
And you knew it was going to happen. But
What's the name of the movie again?
It's called When Evil Lurks. Not Where Evil Lurks, but When Evil Lurks.
And we have some listeners in Argentina.
Oh, we do.
Their stats. Yeah.
Well, I love your movie.
Thank you, Argentina.
But it's, like I said, it's not the scariest, and there's, the acting is mostly good, but in horror movies sometimes the acting doesn't matter so much. But it's all pretty good, and there's some very conventional things in it, but there's a lot of not conventional things. I mean, it's like when you see a vampire movie and they change the rules up.
Right.
This is a demon possession movie where they change the rules up, and the whole point is you can't kill these things because it'll spread everywhere.
Wow.
And that gives it an extra element of, oh, hell, how's this going to happen?
Yeah.
But yeah, I was very happy to rent it. A friend of mine at work recommended it, and it was like, yeah.
Well, I'm going to recommend Strange Darling.
It's out of the theaters. I was going to go see it, and it's now gone.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be around on streaming or something like that. Directed by J.T. Mondler. And the two stars are Willa Fitzgerald, who's from Nashville, and she's mostly done TV stuff. And this Kyle Gallner, who's been in some horror movies like Jennifer's Body, a remake of Nightmare on Elm Street, and 2022 he's in Scream, that version of Scream, and Smile. They're both so amazing in this movie. And it's from the producers of Barbarian and Late Night with the Devil. Barbarian may be my favorite movie from the last few years, and I really liked Late Night with the Devil from earlier this year also.
What's the name of this movie again?
It's called Strange Darling. Okay. And it's about a serial killer, and it's told in 6 chapters, and the chapters are told out of order. And at first I thought, oh, this is going to be, hokey or something like that. Mm-hmm. But it was the best way to tell this story.
Wow.
And it just I don't even know what else to say. I sat in the theater. Nobody in the theater made a noise. I was trying to eat popcorn, and I had to stop eating my popcorn because I felt like I had to pay attention to what's happening here because it was just so well nuanced. And there's no waste, it's like everything means something. Uh-huh. And it kind of goes all over the place, but the out of order telling actually makes the movie that much better.
Huh.
So, and I don't want to say any more than that, other than it was just I think it still has a 95 on Rotten Tomatoes. Uh-huh. It's been way up on Rotten Tomatoes the whole time since it came out.
Well, since you texted me about it, I've purposely not been looking at reviews of it, but I've seen headlines, and everybody seems to love it.
Yeah. And these two actors, they're not. He's been in horror movies and everything, but he's not that familiar to me, and I'm I don't know the TV stuff that she's done, mm-hmm. So that helped because there was no distraction. Right. What you've known about them, and what you don't, you're just these are two people I don't know, and this is, and there are other people, in it too. It's not just about them. Actually, Ed Begley Jr. and Barbara Hershey are in it.
Really?
And I can tell you, and they play. They're kind of funny. They're like an old hippie couple that lives up in the mountains. And they live a very peculiar, eccentric life, and they get swept up in all this too. So,
I definitely want to see it. I have to say that the last time that Chuck texted me about a movie when it came out was Barbarian.
Right. It was I think I said the same thing. So you just had to see this.
Yeah. And I mean, I always take your recommendations on movies. It's I'm, and I told Sarah, my girlfriend, because you and Sarah have never met, but she thinks you're wonderful. She listens to you all the time. I've got to meet Chuck. And the only way I'm going to get her to go to a horror movie is Chuck recommended it.
Well, it has violence. So if that's a bad problem, then it does have that. But it's just so well told.
Uh-huh. Well, she loved Barbarian.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
She
saw the violence.
Yeah. If it's got enough twists and turns.
Right. It does.
You got a movie?
I do have a movie.
Okay.
The engineer that works here at the studio with me, Gray Comer, recommended this, and it's a movie. It's a rock documentary called Under the Volcano.
Okay.
And it's about George Martin, who was the Beatles producer. And after he left the employee of EMI, which was Abbey Road Studios, he formed a studio in London called Air Studio, AIR.
Okay.
And was pretty successful there, but just decided that he thought the recording model needed to be changed and that people needed to be in a place free of distractions. And so he set about looking for a location for Air Studio and landed upon the West Indian island of Montserrat.
Okay.
Which is a tiny little Caribbean island, and he bought a house with a swimming pool in paradise and turned it into a recording studio. And this island is tiny, and the main predominant feature of the island is this gigantic volcano right in the middle of the island. And he started getting artists to come down there and record. And this is not a new phenomenon now, to build a studio out in the woods or in a beautiful place or something, so that the whole band can come and bring their families and have a vacation and not be in the city, not be and Paul McCartney came and recorded there. Duran Duran recorded Rio there.
Oh,
and
wow.
the videos for them with them sailing in a boat, that's all in Montserrat.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it turned out to be a very successful studio venture. And at the 10-year mark, a hurricane came through and severely damaged the building. And as they were trying to recover from that, the volcano erupted and completely destroyed the studio.
Wow.
So it only had 10-year life, but it's just a fascinating story. And George Martin, you think when you see pictures of him working with the Beatles, he's this very clipped British guy wearing a suit and very proper, but later in his life, especially when he was on Montserrat, he had long hair and was very much sort of the hippie ideal of, hey, just to, record what you feel like recording. And, he was kind of I think maybe a predecessor to Rick Rubin.
Okay.
Who's also one of my favorite producers, and he doesn't, and he will tell you, I don't know anything about mics, I don't know anything about recording gear, I just know the philosophy of creation.
Right.
And George Martin,
I like that philosophy of creation.
And George Martin, he did know music. He was a musician himself, and a very accomplished musician, so he's different from Rick Rubin in that regard. But he sort of pioneered the notion of a recording studio as a place removed from the world where you can come and go jump in the pool, then come out and sing a lead vocal track or whatever. It's like Excellent. It was. So it's a really interesting movie. I don't remember. I was able to rent it for like $3.99. So it was.
What was the name again?
It's Under the Volcano.
Under the Volcano. Okay.
Yeah. I read a review of it a long time when it came out, I guess, and I've been looking for it, and I can never remember to look it up. But it sounds great.
It's fantastic for music nerds like you and me, Wayne.
I think Chuck would like it too.
I think Chuck would like it too. But anyway. That's my recommendation.
All right.
Yeah, Chuck has more interesting things to be nerdy about, I think.
Yeah, I can be nerdy about things.
You can be nerdy. Well, you like sports.
Yeah, I do like sports.
Yeah.
I can be nerdy about sports.
I like sports too, so
Yeah,
I'm with you on that
yeah,
side.
we can talk about that. Music recommendations then?
Well, since we were talking about, I forgot to make one. So while we were talking about great guitar players who do have soul, I want to recommend that people check out Adrian Belew.
Oh, cool.
Adrian Belew had a hit with Oh Daddy with his daughter Audie, but he was best known for being just a hotshot guitar player. He played with guested with the Talking Heads, with Frank Zappa, with David Bowie.
He was on Tom Tom Club's Genius of Love.
Yeah.
And he's probably made more money off of that, not just because of their hit with it, but because of all the people who sampled it.
Oh, yeah.
Still seeing that song used in commercials and everything. And they put his name on the credits, so he gets his take.
Yeah. So, I mean, he did that, and he didn't get, I don't think, credit on the horns that you hear on Paul Simon's You Can Call Me Al.
Yeah.
That is actually Adrian Belew on guitar.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he makes all kinds of weird sounds with a guitar.
He wanted, for some reason, Paul Simon didn't want horns. He wanted Adrian Belew to play the guitar through what do you call the electronic boxes at MIDI. Was it MIDI? Maybe I think it was a MIDI. I can't remember which it was. But anyway, that's him playing guitar. But his album Lone Rhinoceros, which is his solo debut album, which is great, is one to check out. And the other one I would recommend, and for some reason a lot of critics didn't like this King Crimson album as much as I do, but The Construction of Light is one of he was in my favorite version of King Crimson, which was him and Bill Bruford and
Tony Levin.
Yeah, Tony Levin. All playing. That was Discipline and Three of a Perfect Pair and Beat.
Discipline.
Yeah, Discipline, Three of a Perfect Pair, and Beat. Those are the.
And they're in rehearsal right now. They're going on tour.
Right, without Robert Fripp, but they're going to play that music.
They're going to play Beat.
But the album Construction of Light, which is after I think Bill Bruford had left. I'm not sure if I think Tony Levin's still on that one. But that is a great album with great guitar playing and great vocals from Adrian.
To add to that, a band that he was in before he got all wacko with all these bizarre guitar mangulations he was in a band called the Bears, and he revived them later on, and they're just very Beatley and very poppy, and unlike most Adrian Belew product.
And great guitars all the way through those. Rob Fetters.
He's amazing. He really is.
Yeah. The second guitar player in that band, Rob Fetters.
I know this guy.
Yeah, that's
I know this guy, and I know that he's good, and I've heard him.
Give him a geek card.
There you go. You're a nerd.
Yeah.
But so he has a whole catalog of stuff. Some of it is more experimental, some of it's crazier. Young Lions is another great album that has probably my favorite thing. He did a collaboration with the Prophet Omega, who the Prophet Omega was dead, so he didn't know he did a collaboration with him. But he was a fella, he was like a radio preacher out of Nashville, and he would release this stuff, like he would have these little sermons, and Adrian Belew took 3 of them, one of which was an advertisement, and put music to them, and they're great. I mean, he's really creative, but he has a lot of soul.
And I got to play with Adrian Belew.
Oh, wow.
At Big Ears.
I'm going to touch you.
Wow, amazing. Need your autograph or something I can get.
We were making ambient music, and Todd Steed, our common friend, was sort of escorting Adrian Belew around because Adrian was playing that year at Big Ears. And we have a little ambient music collective that Todd's part of and I'm part of, and several other people. And he talked Adrian Belew to come and sit in with us. Wow. And so I have a picture of me sitting next to Adrian Belew playing.
Oh, that's terrific. One of my favorite concerts, I saw it at, he played at Ella Garou's, and he had gotten a new pedal in for his guitar. And he just came out while we were having dinner. There was a place where you could have dinner before you saw the show. And he said, if y'all don't mind, I just got this in the mail. I just got this today, and I want to play with it a little bit. And he just plugged it in. He plugged in, and he just started experimenting with everything he could do with that pedal. Wow. He was terrific. He's a super nice guy.
He is a nice guy.
Anyway, there you go.
Well, do you have a music?
I don't.
All right, I'm going to check out here with one more nod to Chrissie Hynde.
Okay.
And this is the group Elastica.
Okay.
They came out in 1995 with their debut album, Edgy. It's like, I think it was 3 women and a man to begin with, but Justine Frischmann was the lead vocalist. They had this song Connection, which is just almost like a Weezer thing that the song just kind of starts. You know, it has like this intro, but it's just like bang, 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 and it's real sarcastic and real rock. And she's totally no nonsense. She was with Damon Albarn of Blur, and they broke up, and the band was doing drugs and fell apart. And they came back with an album like 5 years later called The Menace. Also a very great album. So the original self-titled Elastica from 95 and The Menace from 2000. But one thing I wanted to say about her is that she was asked why she kind of cut to the chase on a lot of songs, you know, and I loved her response. It stuck with me all this time. And she said, well, you know, she said, repeating a refrain over and over to fade out. She said, that's not really music, is it? That's marketing. You know, and it's just like I thought about it. I thought, that's right. You know, now every time I hear someone repeating a refrain to fade out, it's like, that's marketing. So anyway, but she's a badass. And I would recommend those 2 albums, and you'll hear a little Chrissie Hynde in that.
Cool.
All right.
Well, see, it was fun, Chuck.
It was. I'm glad it's over. But yeah, it was fun, and yeah, we'll do something fun next week that hopefully won't cause me so much stress.
You pick it next week.
Yeah, I do. I need to just settle down. All right. Thank you, everybody.
You've been listening to How We Heard It with Chuck Campbell and Wayne Bledsoe, a podcast about music, art, culture, movies, you know, whatever they want to talk about. How We Heard It was recorded in Knoxville, Tennessee at the Arbor Studio by John Baker. If you believe you've been abducted by aliens during the listening to this podcast, we take no responsibility for that. How We Heard It is a Tear Owl production, and if you'd like to reach out to Chuck or Wayne, send an email to howweheardit@gmail.com. Come on back next week and we'll have another show for you.